right, Alien is back. It doesn't go away. The series continues to expand, and did it expand in a good way or not this time? I don't know. We'll see as we get into this. Let's start with the IMDb plot. When a mysterious space vessel crash lands on Earth, a young woman and a ragtag group of tactical soldiers make a fateful discovery that puts them face to face with the planet's greatest threat. Is the greatest threat alien or is it Predator? I don't know. We'll see. I guess we get plenty of chance to mention that or figure that out in the future, as we are apparently going to get plenty of Predator and plenty of Alien going forward. But we can discuss all that at other times. Let's stay here with Alien Earth. It's fun to this. Okay, I should say obviously new series just kind of finished up and not too long ago. I'm gonna assume most of you who might be watching this may have seen this. If not, I'll try to keep spoilers low, but I'm not gonna make 100% promise of everything here. Because I'm gonna have to mention some stuff that's going on here. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. Anyway, yeah, it is coming off of maybe a little bit before this, watching Dexter and having that was a lot of fun to have a series with. I spent so much time watching movies and movies and movies. It's good every once in a while to catch a series. I watch some other series like on Netflix and so forth, but don't always review those. Those are usually thrillers or true crime kind of things. But it's good to see some horror series here. So it was good coming off Dexter. Really enjoyed that, to have yet another series to kind of dive into, and in the end, this was really great. I'm not gonna say I'm the foremost expert on Alien. Yeah, I think I've seen all of them as far as I know, as far as I remember. Obviously, don't remember everything and every little thing, especially when we get maybe after part 2 and some of those other ones. In that, I know it kind of helps. Some people would post it before it started. Where this one lands in the timeline of everything. But yeah, so I'm not gonna say I'm the expert of where we are in time of this one versus the other ones and all kinds of stuff like that. I'll leave that for you guys who are really, 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 really into it and really know your A through Z of Alien and where we are and what's going on. Some of the craziness that I never thought the series would go is this whole alien and cyborg and combining human and alien and cyborg and all this craziness. Originally it started with Alien. We thought we were getting Alien. I know there was a robot in that one, cyborg, whatever you want to call it. But just starting there, the series is called Alien. You focus on the alien, but it seems like over time it's like, like what transformation or what what of the three are going to be on top of the end. And that's, again, not counting Predator. Yes, I'm a Predator fan as well, so I always gotta mention Predator. But yeah, so here we are. We kind of get introduced, and one of the things they do very interestingly here is they tie in Peter Pan. I guess there's a couple of interesting things, obviously lots of interesting things to do, but a couple of interesting things that I noted is the Peter Pan thing. And that is where this guy I guess there's a group of people who have died, and he has kind of brought them back in a way to be, I guess, again, these cyborgs or whatever you want to call them, if I'm using the right terms. Again, not the expert here, but brings them back, and they're really young. And they're very young in not only, some of their, young in who they are or who they were, but young in their thoughts and so forth, and learning and so forth. So he's kind of, named them after characters of Peter Pan and kind of used that as an analogy or whatever to kind of mold them and to, I guess, explain things and get them to learn and so forth. So that was interesting. And when they first kind of talked, I thought, it would just be like one thing, but it kind of carries throughout the entire series, from beginning to end. And even as you see, some of them develop, and even they can be kind of reset. You see that as well throughout the series. If they're not going right or something goes wrong, they kind of can be reset. So that carries the theme throughout. So that was an interesting way to kind of tie in that. You have, one of them obviously is kind of one of the featured characters that we kind of follow. I think it was her ended up being Wendy, and she has a brother as well who is actually just a regular human that we kind of get introduced to. So you kind of have that kind of interrelation of how they balance that, how she's now not really herself that she was before, but she remembers maybe some or has some part of herself there, but not, really fully or in the way he remembers. So we get a little bit of that balance and, their relationship, and it doesn't always go right. But basically we have, I think another kind of theme, and I thought of as this kind of unfolded is you have two, I guess, big companies and so forth, and they might be leading the way of whatever the hell is going on in this time in the future, as far as technology and space and aliens and all kinds of stuff. But one of them is we get to see a little bit more than the other, and he's the one that's basically controlling these cyborgs, these young people. And I don't know, I couldn't help but kind of think of it in our world now, where we have several really big tech companies run by certain individuals. I won't say who I thought this guy reminded me of, but I don't want to go down that avenue. But he reminded me of one in particular for whatever reason. Obviously, he has lots of money and whatever, and so forth. And you can take your own opinion of what you think of some of the people in our world that are millionaires and so forth. And then of course this guy here and what eventually is going to happen at the end of this series. So I thought that was interesting. You have the little battle between him and another person who owns a company. The spaceship kind of crashes on Earth, and it crashes because there's an alien there, there's a cyborg there, and we get the usual stuff that's gone wrong on that ship. And then it's basically a claim to rights of everything on that ship because of where it landed, what's on it, and so forth. He takes claim to certain things in it, in the spaceship. A lot of the alien creatures that survived the crash or whatever on it, they kind of take hold of and they begin experimenting on. And that's another big theme that's going on here. And then the right to kind of hold that, and that's also kind of a thing now where we have lots of fights over intellectual property and so forth and this and that. So some themes that are still kind of in our world now, even though they're in the show, which I believe in this one is sometime in the future. So certain things are still happening. So I kind of picked up on stuff like that. Probably two things that I really thought were badass and I really loved. Actually, we'll make that three. I'll start with number 3 is the cyborg that was on the ship that kind of came down. He was a pretty badass character, and the way he was and his demeanor, and then trying to fool the one kid into doing what he wanted, and then later he has a really good fight with another cyborg. That was a pretty fun scene. That cyborg was maybe not as badass. He was probably maybe using his brains a little bit more. This one was definitely using his brain, but I don't know, just was maybe a little bit rougher around the edges. But I thought he was pretty badass. And then number 1 and 2, it's really, really close. Really, really close. But obviously the alien is badass here. We get we get some of the. I mean, this is Alien, so of course we're gonna get some alien moments. We get one when the series kind of starts. I don't know if it was throughout just episode 1. Maybe it stretched into 2, where you have the alien it might have been episode 2 where the alien is there, it's escaped, and it is attacking and killing everybody and anything. As they're trying to investigate the ship once it crashes. And there's a good battle between it and Wendy in it, and even it killing, other people. And obviously that was a really great, I think it was episode 2, maybe 3, um, when the ship has crashed and some of the aliens that eventually captured are out, and we get to see a little bit of each one of them and what they can do, and some of them end up killing some random people that are there just to die, and they do, and that was some really good fun stuff. And of course the alien's there and he does his thing, and that was really cool. But it was very, very interesting how we got, and then of course we got the xenomorphs or whatever, the face grabbers, the huggers, whatever you want to say, all kinds of names for this thing. Obviously, we got moments of that sucking on the face and whatever. You can't have Alien without some sucking on the face and all that goodness. So that was good stuff. Always, don't go wrong there. So we got some of that. So you gotta check that off, and but very interesting how Wendy eventually, and I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, so watch out, is able to communicate eventually with an alien that is born. And we get to kind of see this becomes is very small, and if you want to call him cute, you can call him cute, alien, and he eventually gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and gets to a point where Wendy spends a lot of time being able to communicate with him, and she almost gets her own pet alien, which was fascinating and pretty cool. I mean, would you want a pet alien? I mean, I would think so, as long as it's not going to turn on you. I mean, most likely one day it will, but I guess if you're going to mess with it, I mean, just like some people mess with having pet gators and tigers and so forth, you always run the risk of one day it's going to turn on you. So I guess if you have a pet alien, you have to weigh the fun versus one day, yeah, it's probably not going to go well. So far in this one, it was worth it, but you never know. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Definitely, seeing that was not something I would have expected to see, with Alien. So yeah, so I think Alien itself was pretty cool. What I really enjoyed with the series, and I definitely made known on Twitter, was the eye. Or I know it had a specific name. I didn't bother to really think of it. I just think of it as the eye, or the eye octopus. The eye that was running around with the tentacles, and then basically wanted to jump into the eye of whatever creature it was, attacking stuff, becoming the eye, and then controlling whatever that was. Obviously, it spends some time being a goat here, but just a really fascinating creature, fascinating what they did with it, fascinating how, it had the tentacles and it would replace the eye of whatever it was trying to attack. You got to see it in action a couple of times. It definitely, of all the alien creatures besides the alien itself, it was probably the second most important thing that was going on here. Even fascinated the rich guy that owned the company. He was fascinated with it, and he wanted to do more experimenting with it and put it in something that he could communicate with. And obviously where it ends off, is obviously, it looks like it's going to be an important part of a puzzle here. Where it's going to go and what its ultimate, reasoning is behind it. We'll see. But I was completely, besides the alien part, I was completely into, what is going on with this eye? What is it doing? Let's see it attack more people and so forth. I even put it out on Twitter. I said, I want to see the prequel to this. I want to see, it needs its own series. I need to know where that came from. Are there other eyes out there? Do they live together? Do they just go around taking the eye of all kinds of creatures? How do they live regularly? How do they communicate? What is going on here? Where did this come from? I need to know it all. Like, I need to know the history of the eye now. So I'm very fascinated. So if they're out there and they catch wind of this or whatever, we need to know. We need to have a spin-off series of the eye, at least one, a couple of episodes of where the hell this came from. Have it kill some people or some things and whatever, and do the eye thing. Really cool stuff. Let's do it. Get it done, please. So yeah, from beginning to end, I think it has its highs and its lows. Some episodes are just kind of explaining, explaining where we're going and getting into the right direction. And then other episodes had a little bit more excitement with people dying and aliens killing people, which, you would have expected. Again, I don't want to put too much thought into it, like where this is and how this affects, things in the whole grand scheme of things. Like I said, I'm not, super going to be invested in everything that's happened in this whole Alien franchise and so forth. Obviously, the whole combination with the cyborgs, humans, and wherever they're eventually going with the thing is a little bit crazy, and I just don't really feel like putting the mind power into it. So I really can't comment on that. But I will say that it was a good series. It was good to see Alien on TV. They did a really good job with the Alien and even the other aliens. Obviously, like I said, where it ends, where it ended, I really can't tell. Like what they have planned, where it's going to eventually land. Are they going to simply keep this in kind of this universe kind of thing and just kind of expand it and what it has to do with whatever else, they have planned for Alien in the future. I don't know. I don't even know that they've made formal comment that they're going to do, season 2, I guess. I would imagine they would. It would make sense. I think it did fairly well, and I didn't see, too many major complaints about it. I don't think I saw, 100% liking, from everybody. But I think, it did well enough. And then definitely, like I said, with the whole Predator is obviously expanding now. I'm sure they want Alien to do just as well. So, we'll see. I would imagine they would. And, if they bring back a season 2, I don't even know where they're going to go with it. I'm not really sure, based on where they ended that. But anyway, I enjoyed it, and I thought another really fun thing they did was, excuse me, was where they ended the episode and then played a really cool song at the end. Why they decided to do that, whatever, I didn't read anything about that. But they really picked some good choices. I think there was a Metallica song, there was a Tool song. I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they ended, most of the episodes with a really cool song, kind of going back in the day. I think, maybe one or two of them kind of may have tied in with whatever was going on in the episode. It was funny because, the one episode that ended with the Tool song, I went back and said, well, what song is that? And I looked it up, and I was like, and then I watched the video for it, and I haven't seen it in forever. And I watched the video and I said, that's very appropriate because that video is very strange, and I could definitely see that being tied into Alien. So definitely, if you familiar with Tool and whatever, and you watch a couple of their videos, they're definitely strange, and they definitely tie in with Alien very nicely. So that was a nice little touch there. Again, not really sure why they decided to do that, but good idea regardless. I enjoyed it. Often I listened to, went on YouTube and Googled the song and whatever and played it many a time afterwards. So that, good fun stuff there. So I don't know, it's always hard with a series to kind of put an overall grade on it because I don't really know where it's going or whatever. But I think I'm going to give it 3.5 pools of blood. I think that's a good start. Obviously, really good stuff with the, to me, it's what the alien does, how much it kills and so forth, whatever. Some of that stuff about the humans and where it's going and the cyborgs and all that kind of stuff, again, is a little bit above me and my brain process here of trying to figure out what they're doing here. So, and how it really ties in with everything. I'm not going to really grade it on that. I'm going to stick to, how much fun I had with the aliens and so forth. Obviously, a plus with the music at the end. And the Eye, if they come back and tell me that they're going to do a prequel for the Eye, I will go ahead and give this a 5 just because it introduced the Eye. But for now, we're going 3.5 pools of blood out of 5 for Alien Earth to start. And, we'll see where this goes. Maybe this is just a one-off or maybe we'll get more. We'll see. So with that, horrorreviews.blogspot.com, so you can find all my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video ones for a while now, so you can like, subscribe, and do everything else that everybody wants to do here on YouTube. If not, no worries. It is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook information down below. If you saw the series, want to comment on it, please do. In the comment section, again, if you liked it, if you want to explain anything, you want to put your theories, yeah, I'm welcome to read them. As far as, what is happening here truly in the universe of Alien, feel free to. And with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.